Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anthropology 120, Biological Anthropology. This is the summer term of 2022, and I am Professor Mercer. I will be teaching the course this summer. I'd like to welcome all of you to the summer edition. Now, one thing to mention, the summer edition, at least this year, is completely online. This is all asynchronous. There won't be any mandatory meetings or anything like that, while I will probably, offer, some regular Zoom office hours for you guys to chime in with me for questions or concerns that you might have. Feel free to move around wherever you're at. Don't, and it'll at least allow you to take the course on your own time. All right, but let me explain what the course is, how it works, and more importantly, how you're going to earn whatever coveted grade that you feel that you want. So our first stop, let's have a look at the syllabus first. So let's walk through the syllabus and look at the course outline. So we can talk about how to get going, how to be successful in this course. And generally feel comfortable with the material. Okay, so let's do a screen share. What you can do if you want is get your own version of the syllabus up, but probably won't be necessary. It'll be right in front of you. So you should be able to see this right now, the course syllabus. All right. Okay. Here, I'm going to stop the share for just 1 second and just make sure that I have it right again. All right, there you go. Okay, so there's a course syllabus. Now, there's a couple of important stuff here at the very top. Information about me, which is important because it contains information on how to get a hold of me. So right there you can see the dates of the course. Obviously, if you're on the course, the date, the start date's already today, probably 6/6. Hopefully, you've started the course when it's supposed to be started. And it goes all the way through July 28th. That's officially our last day of the summer term. All right. Now, again, this is a completely asynchronous course. There's no online meetings. But, if you want, when we do have Zoom sessions, if you'd like to hold, an office hour with me, whatever you like to do, there is the access address right there. You can just copy and paste that right into a Zoom browser, and you can go ahead and enter me, get a hold of me. There is the meeting ID right there. So, like, say you're text messaging me and you'd like to, get a hold of me for a Zoom session, there will be the link for it. All right. Now, speaking of text messaging me and getting a hold of me, here are the two best ways to actually do that. All right. So there's my voice text message down there, 925-335-6298. It's really good, to put that in your contacts, at least for the summer term, in case you need to get a hold of me, you'll see it right there. That's technically when I'm available all the time. I can guarantee you, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But it doesn't mean that you can't try me at later hours. I'm generally up this summertime, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And for many of you that work late at night and you're coming home to study, and you have questions, especially for exams, it's free to call me or text me, at least up to midnight. That's not really going to be an issue whatsoever. Okay. And weekends too. While I'm raising kids right now, I've got a lot of stuff going on the weekends. If you try to get a hold of me, whether voice or text, I'll try to get back to you, within a couple of hours at least, because I may not be able to do it that second, but I will be able to get a hold of you sometime during the weekends. Okay, so don't feel shy about doing that. Now, voice text is the best way, but also you can use your Canvas inbox, what you see over here on the left-hand side. You hit the inbox and send messages to me that way. See, it's better than Campus email, because in Campus email, I get a lot of external emails, from administrators, colleagues, all sorts of stuff going on. And I answer them one by one, and it could be quite a while before I get back to you. But with this, the Canvas, inbox here, the messenger service we use here, only students use that. And also it comes to I have a little alert. So whenever I get something in the inbox, it makes a little buzz on my phone so I can check it right away, right? That doesn't really happen on my campus email. So you're gonna get a delayed response of up to a day versus something really snappy and quick if you use the inbox here. Okay, so that's how to get a hold of me, and this is how to get a hold of me on the Zoom office hour if you want to schedule something with me. All right, so this course, it's a combined laboratory and lecture sort of series. We used to have separate, lab and lectures where you sort of signed up for them, separately, but it never really worked out for the students because you would take, a lecture course from one professor and a lab course from a different professor. There just wasn't enough continuity. It was awfully confusing for the students. So we decided to aggregate them into one course. And it is much better this way. I think all the students have responded sort of favorably. And certainly I prefer it when I can teach an end-to-end sort of course, right? So the course in itself, basically an overall sort of overview, I have listed out here, in 13 bulleted points, really can be boiled down to this, trying to answer the question of what it is to be biologically human. And I mean, beyond the mere gaze of just looking at you as a biological, life form, what is it to be human? How is it that we arrived here? You know, how is it we came to be? Why in this form? Right? And what are the real requirements, to make a human happy and healthy? Are we providing those requirements now, or at what point in human history were those requirements met? So we'll be answering some of these questions through, examining the human fossil record, looking at the genetics, human genetics, and by comparing ourselves to our closest living relatives, the great apes. All right. And the laboratory will best be more of an applied sort of hands-on sort of approach to this, as much as can be possible in an online framework. It's not like we're going to be in a lab sitting down and handling stuff. And really for the summer, for most of you students that are just running around trying to screw and make a living and want to be a little more free, none of you don't want to have to be dragged to a classroom for that experience. So I'm going to try to simulate it as best I can in an online format. Okay. All right, so as far as communication plans are concerned, I told you how you can get a hold of me. What I'll be doing, I'll be sending out a couple of announcements per week, 2 or 3 usually, never more than that, because it gets plain to have to read everything. You get bombarded with information and you tend to sort of blow it off. If I send something to a Canvas messenger, please do read it, because normally it'll be a reminder about a quiz coming up, or it'll be me sending out a study guide, something really to help you. I will be sending out study guides. So don't blow off the announcements that I send out for the course, because they're very important. And I'm not just going to waste my time by sending you some random news that's happening out there. It won't be like fake announcements. It'll be absolutely something real. Okay. Now, other than that, you can get a hold of each other. I'm going to be leaving the people tab open so you can see who else is in class. So, you have your friends out there, and with the chat function open too, so you can speak and talk with people. And that way you can form study groups. And I think that's really important. You can actually even get Discord servers or do whatever you want to do, on your own to create, online chat groups, but you can do it right through that portal if you actually need to. And I really emphasize the importance of actually doing that, particularly in an online world where we're sort of discombobulated, although I should be the primary point person for you to ask questions to, nothing is fun is studying with other students, so please do, reach out whenever you can. There'll be a meet and greet assignment, which we're going to be doing when we first start the class, that allow you to sort of get to know each other, and we're looking at that soon. So I'll have ways to sort of get you guys together, so these study groups will kind of drop out of this. All right. Now, the thing about it is, for those of you in the DSS system here, or any other disabilities, I've got some numbers here for you if you don't already have them. Where to go and contact these folks off, and particularly if you have special learning requirements or testing requirements that you haven't fulfilled yet, there are the places to go for it. What I will receive official information about your needs through them, and I'll try to make those accommodations for you right away. Okay? Now, here's the thing: is don't be afraid to reach out to me. Many times there is a point of failure, and it's usually not me. Sometimes the information doesn't get moved out of the Disability Support Services office to be quick enough. So if you're willing to, just send me an email about what your needs are, I will make sure I have those taken care of. So there are no snafus for you. Okay. Now, for those of you who are new to Canvas, which, it gets to happen these days, right? People going back to school or working in different formats. If you're not familiar with Canvas, here's a quick start for you guys. There's a video tutorial on there, and just a couple of links to you to help you sort of get going. I think these are good. They're pretty accurate for the basics. But another way to get adept on Canvas is talking to me. I've been working with this thing for years and years. I used to work for Microsoft, by the way. So as far as technology is concerned, I pretty much have this stuff down. So if you're having a problem with this at all, or having an issue with it, and we can meet like on Zoom, and I can take you through how Canvas operates too. So just let me know if you're having any issues with it, and I'll give you the tutorial myself, and I can really tell you the ins and outs and the nuances of how to really make this thing perform well for you. Okay. All right, down to what you need for the course. There are 2 things you need to purchase. Okay, and the first one is not expensive at all. So it's a small reader, and this is the story of the human body. I think full blown retail price on this is $17. That's brand spanking new. I don't know what, use 10, 12 bucks. Because it's the summertime, why don't you go ahead and try to get this one as fast as you can? And of course, there are e-texts out there, they're just holding you the actual solid paperback that you can get if you want, or you can get the e-varieties. And we're not going to be utilizing this text until we get maybe to the latter part of the course, but because it's summer, you might forget about it. So you might as well go ahead and get that book now, okay? Now, the next one you're going to be needing pretty quick, like right away. And this is a laboratory manual, biological anthropology laboratory manual, right? It says laboratory manual and workbook for biological anthropology, okay? It's by Elizabeth Soluri. That's Katie Soluri. I used to work with her. I know her pretty well. She's really awesome, awesome person that put this together. This was her PhD dissertation at Cal. She decided to have a family during her PhD, so she wasn't able to get out of the country. So she did her study on how to teach labs. So I was kind of impressed. I followed her through her graduate dissertation research. I didn't supervise it, but I was there along when she was producing it, utilizing some of the labs at our institutions where I teach at to sort of try and true it. And she produced the first edition about 4 years ago and went through peer review through all of us, and she produced the second edition. And we think this is a fairly good book, for doing what we call dry labs. When you can't actually have access to a lab, how can you simulate it? Well, this is not a bad stab at it. Okay? So you'll need to get this one, particularly the second edition, okay? The first edition has a snow monkey on it, and this one has a juvenile pygmy orangutan. You may not be able to tell the difference, but if you see the rain hat on the juvenile's head, isn't it cute? It has a little rain hat. It builds a little rain hat. That's the one you want to see. Okay, that's the one, the juvenile, the orangutan with the rain hat. This is the one. And of course, this is available, in the e-text. And for this course and for the type of submissions we're going to be doing, I think this is the best thing for you. Although you can get the hard copy and you can make photocopies and upload those into the assignment windows, and those work out just fine. So for those of you that prefer to actually have something like this to write down in your own pen, these work just fine too. You can get a hard copy if you like. Okay. So those are the only two things that you're going to be needing. Right. Now, there's some online resources that I have for you, because I don't want you to have to buy a big, expensive textbook. I don't know anybody who would, in their right mind, who would just sit down and read a textbook. They're the most boring, god-awful boring things in the entire world. Really, a textbook is a specialized encyclopedia where you look stuff up. It's sort of a reference book. So I've found an online reference book for you written by some professional anthropologists, which is fairly good. It's fairly good. Maybe every book has its strengths and weaknesses. It's pretty good. And it's a good place to go and look up information if you don't quite understand the subject matter what you're looking at. So in the assignment windows, I'm going to be pointing towards this online text, which you can click and go right to the areas that are addressing the information that might be under spotlight that I'm lecturing on, to give you a little bit of background if you're a little bit fuzzy on it, okay? So there's your little reference book that's online and costs you nothing, all right? Now, course requirements. This is really how you're going to be graded. I think everyone's really interested in this. So there's two aggregated components, right? There's a lecture and there's a laboratory. They combine to one to give one grade, one course. Okay, so here's how I separate them out. For the lecture, there are 4 examinations, okay? Quizzes. They come at the end of each of the 4 modules in the course, okay? Each one is worth 100 points, okay? 4 of them, okay? What I'm going to do is, of the first 3 quizzes, not the 4th, but the first 3 quizzes, I'll drop your lowest score automatically. You don't have to worry about it. When it shows up in the grade book, final day of course, I'm just going to drop it. Thus, you'll be graded out of the 300 of your highest points, right? But you have to do the final. The final has to stay 300, okay? Then you're going to get 5 points for a meet and greet. That'll be the first assignment that you do, and we'll be looking at that in a second. So there's 105 points for that, or for 305 points for that. The rest of the points, the additional 100 points, will come from the laboratory. And this is why. 300 from the lecture, because it really represents a 3-unit class. And typically that's what it is. The lecture alone is 3 units. The laboratory class is 1 unit. Thus, I've divided up the course points fairly along those lines. 100 points for 1 unit class, and 300 units for a 3-unit class. It represents the amount of work that should be done. Okay, so one thing you don't want to do is take an aggregated course and end up with more work to do, right? That's not the purpose of trying to do this. I kind of wanted to space it out and be fair between what you're actually, committing your time wise to. Okay, well, what I will do is take those points, place them together, and give you a point total, right, where your total score, and then we'll see where those percentages line up, and that will be your final grade. Okay, so here they are right here. Typically 365 to 405 earns you the whatever the A if you're looking for that, right? 324 to 360 for the B, and C 284 to 324, and below 284 you can see, down the D's and F's, which are highly unusual in my courses. You really have to just disappear to get a D or an F in my class, particularly in the summertime. It's not rocket science, okay? So as long as you're sticking with the course, you're never going to get below a C. And in fact, I would say generally 45 to 50% of my students get B's in this course, 24 to 28% on average will get an A, maybe 10 to 15% C's. And that's just about it. That's just the way it lines up every single semester, for the last couple of decades, which is a standard normal sort of grade curve. Okay. All right. Now, other nuances about this, how you can actually increase your score. I'm going to be putting out a couple of extra credit assignments. They're going to be 2 10-point extra credits. It's a lot of points, actually. So, you think about, 20 extra points on this, that's 5 or 10% of your grade right there. You can actually rate it. You can probably get a letter, half a letter grade to a letter grade, bump, in your grade if you do these viewing assignments. And they're pretty easy. I'm just going to have you view something, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about the viewing. You'll submit those, for 10 points each. Those will come in the first couple of modules. I won't put one in the very last module because you don't have too much to do to worry about extra credit, and you want to get that sort of lined up and done early part of the class so you can bag those points and move on. All right. Now, as far as adds and drops are concerned, pay attention to this. Here's what I'm going to say about adds and drops, right? That that sometimes students are confused, like, well, maybe I should drop before the W period, but if I get a W, it doesn't matter because that won't show up in my GPA. Well, no, the W will show on your record as a withdrawal. And if you're looking to go to a really competitive, institution like the Cal State's, the University of California system or a private college or something, they do take those W's into account. Too many of them, they will tend not to accept you, I guess, over other students. Because to them it says, sort of high risk, and that's the truth. Students that take a lot of W's take a lot longer to get through school, and that tends to cost institutions more money. And really, that's really what it's about these days. There's a lot of bean counters out there worrying about budgets. So try to minimize the number of W's that you have, particularly in your last 2 years of a community college or last year and a half. Be very, very careful about that. Okay, so get out before the W day. So I'm saying if the course is not working for you, you're running out of time or whatever, is not try to get out before that line. Okay, right. So here's our schedule. Now here's the thing: is I haven't put any dates on the schedule here because the dates are in the modules, right? So when we look at the modules, we'll be able to see when things are due. And that's where I want to place them. I want to place them on 2 things. You don't need to do that. The reason I placed it on the syllabus like this is that when you're getting ready to study for a module, you can see the subjects in the whole unity of the first module all together. So you can see what you should have learned. You can run to this. Okay, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. You can see a whole collective organization of what you need to have up here to do well, in the exams. Thus, for module 1, those are the contents in module 1, the things which you should have learned, right? And the assignments of which you've encountered. And it tells you something about the quiz. So the module 1 quiz, multiple choice. Okay, so it tells you what you're up against. It's a multiple choice quiz. Okay. Module 2, same way. I did the same with module 2, right? And module 2 quiz, multiple choice quiz. Okay. Same thing with module 3. Module 3 ends with a multiple choice quiz. Now, module 4 is different, the final module of the course, you see. And the finale is getting into actual human evolution. And that results in not a multiple choice quiz, but an essay response. It is a single question. Well, I'm going to ask you one question, and you're going to have a week to do it. It's the whole week. I'll just give you the question, and you have a whole week to respond to it. And why I love it is that for people who don't do well on multiple choice questions, it allows you to write something. It's wonderful, right? And for people who don't write well, it gives you an entire week to do the question too. So it tends to balance out for all the students, right? And all your skill sets. Right. Now, below the lecture material, same thing is accompanied for the laboratory. The things which we're doing in the laboratory and the things which you have learned, right? And it will also tell you when when the quizzes are going to arrive. You can see in the first module of laboratory 1, there is no quiz. It's only when we finish the second module do we actually do a lab quiz. And that's what I have. There's only 2 quizzes in the entire laboratory setup. And that's because it's a 1-unit class. I just don't want to throw a whole lot of work at you for 1 unit. Thus, you're only going to have 2 small multiple choice quizzes for the laboratories. Plus, the laboratory work in which you turn in will aggregate together to determine your laboratory grade for the 1 unit. Okay. Now, I wanted you to stop this and go into something more important. Let's looking at the modules themselves. Let's have a look. Now I'm going to stop the share for a second just to do it. I'm going to do it again just to make sure, because on your end, I don't have a validation that you can actually see it. But if I run through it twice, generally I'll make sure that you're going to see it on screen. Okay, all right. So you see in module 1, let's follow the module from the top. There's the first assignment that I need you guys to do, okay? Now here's the deal. So you see where the due date is on it right now? See, I'm actually producing this video before I'm actually going to be, gearing and changing, those due dates for these assignments. So that will be due, 4 or 5 days after the course starts, thus by the 10th, of June, we should have that assignment done. So when you look at the quiz dates here, they're also not going to be updated quite yet. That'll be something I'm going to be doing over the weekend, because I'm doing this video, a few days before the course actually starts. I'm just telling you that what you'll need to do. So the meet and greet assignment itself basically is going to be asking you a question, well, what are the positives and negative aspects of online education for you, or online courses? And I love that question because everyone has an opinion about it. People love them. Some people hate different formats. And when you write your opinions about that sort of stuff, it helps me learn from it. Things that you like and things that you don't like. So I can kind of cultivate and shape my course continually to meet the needs of students like you. And then there's something you can post something about yourself, pictures or things that you do or things that, think something about you if you want to post something that allow people to learn something about you and interact. Then you can go ahead and make a couple of comments on other people's posts. In fact, I'd like you to make a comment at least 2 people's posts, sort of get to know each other. And that way, it will help you fishing together to form, the coveted study group. So I hope you do. Okay. Now, next you can see are the list of assignments within module 1. Okay. And they're interleaved with the laboratory assignments. And that's the order in which I want you to do them. Okay. So as you can see, we're going to be talking about course introduction and learning objectives, which I want you to go through on your own. Mechanics and initial viewings. So in other words, what I want you to start watching some preliminary sort of videos, right? To sort of draw you into the subject matter, some initial viewing, because I want something easy for you. I don't want a lot of assignments going on for you when you're just easing yourself back into summer. But lucky you just came off, a spring semester, and here we are thrusting ourselves back in the summer a week later. I kind of want everyone to kind of go into it a little bit easier. So initial viewing, some really cool videos to watch, okay? Then we're going to go into anthropology and subfields, discussing what anthropology is. I've got some Zoom voiceovers and lectures in there for you, and some other interesting videos looking at what anthropologists do in the field. And then we'll be hitting into a discussion that's sort of pivotal to the course, I think, science's origins. We are a science. Anything that says an ology, like anthropology, ology actually means the scientific study of it. So we have to really try to understand how science works. Where did it actually come from? So we're looking at the brief history of it and how that might pertain to us, to become better scientists and do a better job in the future. Okay. And then we alternate back onto laboratory work again, search for complex life, where did life begin, the origins of life, and then talking a little bit how we can frame that in deep time by looking at geological time, and how evolution actually works. The underpinnings of what we're, the reasons why we're here. We're going to be examining that, okay? And then we go into the first sets of labs. And the first sets of labs, we're trying to get you acquainted with the human skeleton, right? And a little bit of the anatomy and some parts of physiology too. Of course, this is going to be, a real easy, brief introduction. It's not like we're going to medical school, but I need to give you enough information to allow you to orientate yourself around some of the examples we're going to be looking at in the course, at least so you feel comfortable with identifying some main features is I'm going to be discussing. There's nothing like me discussing something on a professional level. You have no idea or no frame of reference what I'm talking about. So we have to learn a little bit of some basic principles of anatomy. Okay. That will all culminate into a lecture quiz, and I will adjust the dates on those. So when you're bringing up this on your own, you'll see the first lecture dates that are going to be happening. Generally, it'll be a quiz, every 3 weeks, on this material. 2.5 to 3 weeks, on an 8-week course, 4 sections is generally what it ends up to be. So, basic, good, strong, steady work is what it takes. And also this module 1 accumulates into a CUBE extra credit assignment, and that's watching the movie Cube that was done, God, my 1999, it's a Canadian film, and answering a question about that as it pertains to evolution within itself, okay? So, what you've seen here in module 1 is a typical rhythm of the class, and you'll see for the remainder of the next 3 modules. So if you just slip through them, the information does not make much sense, but I have them set it the same way. Stuff I want you to watch for lecture, things I want you to do in lab. Okay. Now, as far as the laboratory assignments themselves, just click on them, right? So I give you an example about what these are like and what I want you to do. Okay. So in laboratory 1, for example, okay, because laboratory 1 is labeled laboratory 5 in here. And it tells you which pages to go to. You'll be looking at pages 111 to 132, okay? So what I want you to do is either you can go right into the Canvas word processor itself and type in your answers, or you can write them in your workbook. You've got one and photocopy it, or you can write them out by hand and send me a photocopy in, or you can upload something on your own word processor on your own computer. So there's many different ways in which you can submit, your responses to the labs. Now, in many of the labs, I'm going to be asking you to do, just sets of questions. Like here, it says concept review questions 1 to 10, critical thinking questions 1, 4, 5, and 7. And on this laboratory, I would like you to do exercises 1 and 3. What you have to be very attentive to is sometimes I don't want you to turn in the exercise. I'll let you know right there, okay? On this one, yes, I want you to turn all of those in. And sometimes I'll say omit turning in the exercises just for expediency. And for the summertime, I'm trying to cut down the time eating. It requires a lot of time sometimes these exercises, and I don't want to overload you. So many times I want you to maybe quickly sketch out and do the exercises, but not worry about formatting to send them in for a grade. So be very close attention to actually what I'm asking for you to do, and it'll save you a lot of time, right? Now the lab in itself can be accessed right there. It says bones of the skeleton, So that's not the lab itself, but that's actually the PowerPoint that goes along with it. Sorry, it's not the lab itself. That's the PowerPoint itself. It's sort of a precursor, sort of, introduction to the skeletal system that'll actually help you, learn the skeletal system along with the workbook. So I've got some supplementary sort of information down there too that you can actually click to help you get through this. All right. So that's typically how a lab is set up, and you can again just upload it. And all the labs are pretty much like that. That's just pretty much how the summer semester works. Okay, so going to head back to the first page and try to end this discussion today, right? Because I don't want to keep talking everyone's ears off, right? I know I can go on and on and on. So at this point, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is get started in the meet and greet and finish that as fast as you can, and get right into the lab discussion, mechanics, and initial viewings, okay? I will send out, some announcements later on the week, sort of let you know where you should be in the material, sort of targeting the first sort of, laboratory quiz where you should be, on time. And in the middle of the week, I'm also going to send out a list of study questions to assist you. But I don't want to send them out too early because you'll target just those questions and miss all the rest of the information that could also be on the exam. So some of the strategy is not sending out the study questions too early. But letting you complete enough of the coursework and then sending out the study questions, it tends to be more profitable for you, and you will do better on the exams. All right, so that's what I have for this introduction. I hope to see you guys on Zoom sometime. I love interfacing with students. If not, you'll be seeing me through the Zoom lectures that I produce online, no matter what. Okay, so thanks for being in my course. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.